Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the invisible connections that literally run our digital world, APIs. And more importantly, we're going to talk about how they've become the absolute #1 target for attackers.
Everything we're talking about today comes from the latest Wallarm API ThreatStat report. It's this incredible, data-driven look into what's really happening in API security. And honestly, the insights are must-know stuff for anyone building or defending modern applications.
Okay, let's just start with this quote from the report, because it sets the stage perfectly. If an attacker could control only one part of your infrastructure, they would pick your APIs. Think about that. It's not just about stealing data anymore, it's about seizing control.
And that leads us straight to the first major insight. APIs are, without a doubt, the new primary attack vector. But here's the surprising part. Attackers aren't using some kind of super secret zero-day magic. Nope. They're winning by exploiting the same common, repeatable weaknesses over and over again.
And the data on this is just undeniable. APIs are now dominating vulnerability disclosures. They account for nearly half of all confirmed exploits out there. What this tells us is that attackers are laser-focused, making APIs the absolute heart of the biggest, most damaging security breaches we're seeing today.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. We're seeing a huge shift in attacker strategy. It's no longer just about finding a simple bug in the code. Attackers are getting way smarter. Now they're focused on abusing the actual business logic of your application, how it's supposed to work.
The report really boils this down into 3 core themes. First, attackers now favor abusing application logic over finding simple bugs. Second, AI isn't really creating brand new weaknesses, it's just making existing ones a whole lot worse. And third, what truly defines your risk is the live, runtime behavior of your APIs, not just what you find in testing.
A perfect example of this is broken access control. This has been and continues to be one of the most consistently exploited vulnerabilities. In today's super complex distributed API environments, just making sure the right person can only access the right data is a massive, massive challenge. We're also seeing this steady climb in attacks targeting something called insecure resource consumption. Basically, this is where attackers overwhelm an API by just asking for way too much data or too many resources all at once. And it makes total sense, right? Automated tools for scraping and enumeration are everywhere now.
So these existing threats are bad enough, but now they're being supercharged by something totally new. The report shines a huge spotlight on the most significant emerging threat, a new protocol that enables fully autonomous attacks. And believe me, it is fundamentally changing the game for everyone.
It's called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. The simplest way to think about it is like an instruction manual for an autonomous AI agent. It's the API that tells the agent what it's allowed to do, what tools it can use, and what authority it has to go off and act on its own. And this concept of agentic AI is so important. Think about the difference between asking your smart assistant for the weather versus asking it to book you a flight. In that second case, it's not just spitting back information, it's taking a whole series of autonomous actions to get a complex job done. That is agentic AI.
And the growth here is just staggering. The report found a 270% increase in vulnerabilities related to MCP in a single quarter. No, that is not a typo. This is a clear signal of a massive and incredibly fast concentration of risk around this one new protocol.
So these vulnerabilities almost always boil down to a combination of 3 distinct failures. First, as you can see, the MCP API itself is just left exposed. Second, the AI agents are given way too many permissions by default. And third, there's just no good way to enforce security policies while it's all running. It's a total perfect storm for a breach.
So what does this actually look like in the real world? What's the real impact when one of these MCP servers gets compromised? Well, it means a compromise is no longer just a one-time data leak. It means an attacker literally gets control of an autonomous system. They can just give it a goal, and that system will keep executing tasks for them long after the initial breach is over. The API doesn't just give up data anymore, it delegates power to the attacker.
And this isn't just theory. One of the biggest breaches of the year involved a flaw that we've known about for decades, a path traversal vulnerability. It's a simple bug that lets an attacker get to files and directories they shouldn't. In this case, that one tiny bug in an MCP server gave them the keys to the entire AI agent kingdom.
This breach is the perfect poster child for how modern breaches happen. It's this dangerous cocktail of identity failures, unsafe API consumption, and the massive amplifying power of automation.
Okay, so faced with this pretty scary, evolving threat landscape, what can we actually do about it? The good news is the report lays out a really clear defensive playbook with concrete actions for all of us security practitioners.
First up, design for abuse, not just for correct function. You have to go in assuming that attackers are going to use automation to hammer your APIs from the very first request. Your security controls have to be built with that reality in mind.
Second, you have got to secure these new agentic APIs, like MCE, as if they are the most critical piece of your entire infrastructure, because they are a risk multiplier. They can take a tiny bug and amplify its impact dramatically.
Third, and this is a classic, but it's more crucial than ever, inventory is a security control. It's simple. You absolutely cannot protect what you don't know you have. Continuously discovering all your APIs, especially those forgotten ones, is totally non-negotiable.
And finally, measure what actually matters. We have to stop chasing theoretical risks off a checklist. Your security team needs to focus its time and energy on the real-world abuse patterns that we know attackers are actively exploiting right now.
You know, the biggest takeaway from this entire report is that improving API security isn't really about chasing some exotic new attack. It's about mastering the fundamentals, especially now, as our APIs are becoming so much more powerful, delegating action, not just serving up data. Which leaves us all with a pretty critical question. How are you going to secure them?
Thanks so much for watching. If you found this explainer helpful, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. It genuinely helps us a ton and allows us to create more content just like this.